Hello, and welcome back to the Mid-Am Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Adele Golf. Oh, damn it.
Oh,
Hello.
what a whiff.
Steve Reich!
Oh,
Sorry. Okay, brought to you by the fine folks at Adele
Hello.
Golf.
beautiful.
Thank you. I'm learning how to use the soundboard. Yeah, so I just got my set of wedges on Friday. And I know Nathan got his shipping notification.
Mine will be here tomorrow.
Hey.
I was seething with
Yeah.
jealousy and anger.
Oh man, yeah, I could
watching
feel
you
it,
open
dude.
your box.
I could feel it.
I was like,
Yeah,
"Great,
so I mean, I
so
took him
happy
out.
for you."
Yeah, I took him out on Friday, and I was just kind of getting him dialed in, and then I took him out on the course today, and they're really solid as to be expected. And Adele has been known for their incredible irons and wedges for some time, but their new array lineup of putters has been personally a game changer for me, and will be a game changer for Nathan when we get him all set up here pretty soon. Engineered for adjustability and total putter customization, the array line of putters from Adele Golf takes the guesswork out of putting. With 4 different head shapes, 4 interchangeable hosels, and multiple alignment and weighting options, you can confidently roll it knowing that your aim bias and stroke type are accounted for. Learn more at adelgolf.com. That's EDELGOLF.com, because even one shot can change everything. And again, just to reiterate, that aim bias is real. It's very real. I went from aiming 8 inches left of the center of the cup to like a half an inch right, just by changing out, like swapping, trying different hosels and different alignment aids. And I did nothing but just set up to the putt. And it totally changed the way that my eye saw it. So it's something
cool.
that it's interesting that haven't seen really any other putter like manufacturers make it a point of emphasis in their fitting system, but it's a big deal.
Yeah, very cool. I'm super excited. I have played with. I was thinking about this leading up to hopefully whenever I can do my fitting here, hopefully soon. That like I've played with heel shafted blades, like 6 o'clock toe hang with like a 3/4 hosel offset. I've played with plumber's neck, just like your classic answer style putter. I've played with mallets. I've played with like the face balanced Scotty Futura ugly, Star Trek spaceship thing. Like I've rolled kind of the gamut at one time or another, and I always feel like I have putted. I feel like a couple of them I've putted better with than others, but I'm curious to see like, what my eyes actually find most natural. I feel like it's like I think like I've kind of adjusted or kind of like trained myself with certain ones that probably didn't fit me. Where I'm like, I feel like I always missed this left, and I just started like setting up more and more and more right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, and I'm excited, and I'm nervous and a little bit sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy.
Mom spaghetti.
That's right.
So this this week or whatever, we thought we'd do some listener questions. So I put it out on the on the gram for people to kind of submit, and we got a bunch. A lot of them were equipment related, which we're gearheads, but we're also like not really qualified to speak on a lot of those questions. So you shouldn't take our advice, and we're going to kind of preemptively not even going to give it, because it wouldn't be worth much. There are a lot of smart people out there that know a lot more about that stuff than we ever could, because it's like their job or whatever. But there were a bunch of them that I feel like we are qualified to answer. So we'll jump in with an easy one, kind of a quick one. At Golfing for Margaritas asked us, better feeling, puring an iron or making a long birdie putt?
Ooh, birdie putt.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question, because there's like
They're different feels.
Puring an iron is like a tactile feel.
Right. Yeah.
Making
exactly.
a birdie putt is like an emotional feel.
It's in the feels.
Yeah.
It's not a feel.
So it's a little apples and oranges. I would say, golf is a results, driven game. So I would say, yeah, I mean, like making a bird, like I can pure an iron over the green, be out of bounds and have to re-tee. Like, that doesn't feel great. But making a birdie putt, some stuff had to happen before that was probably pretty decent to get to the point where you made the birdie putt.
For sure. I have long been a Mizuno iron player. Mm-hmm. And I like as a poster boy for Mizuno for now until Adele sweeps in, takes me off my feet, gives me the Swayze, the lift. I do distinctly recall the first time I just buttered one with a Mizuno.
Yeah.
And it was a
spiritual experience.
It was a personal feel. Yeah. We're not going to go into it more than that. But a long putt for birdie is it's got all the senses, right? Because there's the feel of the putt, the wind in your hair, the sound of the ball just dripping in a ball. I'm never going to make that sound again on this podcast, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. The sound of a ball going into the cup, best thing in the world. I'm starting a personal campaign of always pulling the pin.
Yes.
In 2024.
Just for that sound.
Just for the sound. For the sound. And because coefficient of restitution is a load of bananas.
Shut up, Bryson.
Yeah. Shut up. Get out of here, you guys. So I don't believe in it. I put better with it out. So I'm gonna do it. Also the sound. So yeah, I'd say birdie putt.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next at Brandon Davis, who is a grinder. Gosh. He is a grinder just like we are. That dude practices hard. He's getting really good too. It's fun to watch him. What are you most confident about / most worried about your game heading into the Mid-Am qualifier?
Good question, Brandon.
I would say at this point, everything. I'm worried about everything. Normally my I'm like, hey, you know what? Off the tee, I'm gonna be fine. Like from there, it's questionable. Now it's all just questionable. Yeah. I played 9 holes today, hit 0 fairways, and not just like barely missing into the rough, like really just
real missed
left and right as far as you can go. I think my dispersion code's about 150 yards right now. Yeah. So you know what though? I'm not in danger of peaking too early. So I'm going to take that as my positive. Like
it's a buildup.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
I've got 2 weeks to figure it out. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I was pretty sure when I saw you post that thing about 0 for 6 fairways, 0 for 6 fairways. I was like, I'm going to have to talk Tyler off a ledge tonight. It's going to be bad.
I just
how many drivers are in a shopping cart online right now?
Dude, yeah, I don't. It's so bad that I can't. I'm not even disillusioned to think I can fix it with equipment. Like that. We're DEFCON 5.
We're past that. We're existential crisis.
It's so bad level that I'm not. I don't even feel bad about it. It's like I'm in shock.
Yeah. Here's one thing I was gonna say or recommend. Just texting it to you, but I forgot to, so I'll just say it on the podcast. You should try hitting something completely different for a half a range sesh. Like get a women's driver, like a senior flex, like something just completely different. Because I always felt like I've gone through this in times past with my own equipment or like putters or something. And it's just like something completely like out of left field, and you just feel lost. You got nothing going, and sometimes you need kind of like a palate cleanser.
Maybe I just take out the Dempsey for a minute.
Just go hit the lumber.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I'll just go hit the lumber, and then at least when I get maybe I won't hit the driver between now and the mid-am. I'll just hit the persimmon, and then like a day before, I'll go to the range. I'll hit the driver, and it'll look massive. It'll look like I can't miss it.
Yeah, it'll be perfect. I don't know about that, but but I do think sometimes you gotta wash the taste out of your mouth, right? So
yeah. I also have to remember that I didn't touch a club for like 15 days, and
right.
like it's taking a little. I mean, everything feels weird. Putting felt weird. Chipping felt weird. Hit some okay iron shots. I had a little case of the lefts to start, but actually I hit a couple of really pure iron shots, so that was cool. But yeah, the driver just kind of it's gone MIA. It went out to go get milk and cigarettes, and haven't seen it since. But I'll find it. I'll find it. I always do.
It'll come back.
What about you?
It'll come back. I blanked on the question. Best. How do we feel? Best and worst. Most confident. Most.
Yeah, most confident. Least. Yeah. What are you worried about? What do you feel like is in the bag?
Okay. Most confident. Probably putting right now. I feel really good with what I got going on, and I am confident that a switch to a different putter head or any of that really won't throw me off, because I feel like I know what I need fitting wise now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the aim bias stuff is only gonna help me. So I always feel pretty good about myself reading greens, and pretty good with pace control. I tend to adjust quickly. I believe that about myself anyway. So pretty confident with putting. And processes, I think, is also good. I'm still, heels are dug in as far as, I'm committed to some very simple and neutral swing mechanics, swing thoughts, processes that I'm trying to implement. Some of that may shift in the next couple weeks, because I'm actually going to start working with a coach starting tomorrow. It's not, like ideal timing, 2 weeks before, a competitive round, but I'm going to tell him that, and he's smart enough that he'll help me along.
He's not going to try to blow. He's not going to try to detonate you tomorrow.
Like, we're not changing my grip, It's like this, that would just be like it's a building year if that happened.
We're going after the lottery, the lottery picks in the draft, man. We're tanking for Caleb Williams.
That's right. So my plan is with that is to just, obviously I'll just level with him and be like, hey, I've got this round coming up in a couple of weeks. I kind of, I want to get started working on some stuff that might help me improve. Let's start with maybe the low hanging fruit. And then after that, I don't want to spend the whole season trying to shift and change and build things. And I don't think my current trajectory, the things I'm working on, are too far off anyway. I think I'm kind of on the right path, so I don't really feel like it'll be a huge shift. But we harp about it a lot, or have at least historically on this podcast, that like you need a coach, you need to be working with somebody, you need another pair of eyes at the very least to just look at your stuff, because like whatever the golf equivalent of body dysmorphia is very real. Like I'll look at my swing and be like, that thing, what the heck am I doing? And then I've seen a few posts, people are like, man, I like your action. I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. This is
shut up.
It's ugly.
They hate me.
So, you need another pair of eyes. You can't do it on your own. So I am finally practicing what I preach.
I saw something cool the other day, or maybe it was, I don't know, it was recently, but it was Golf Science Lab. Good follow, by the way, if you haven't, check them out. But he did a video with Dr. Luke from Ripstick, talking specifically about swing changes and like playing, and he made a good point that I hadn't really considered. It makes a lot of sense, but because I've always been like somewhat like I've had trepidation around like really super overhauling the swing because I'm just like, well, dude, I don't want to like be miserable for 8 months or whatever. Um, and not be able to play. And he was just like, well, then you don't have to do that. Like you can work on stuff and be super uncomfortable in your range sessions and then like throw all of that out the window when you're on the course and just play golf and like don't think about any of that stuff. And he goes, chances are that stuff will slowly start leaking in, into your on course swing. But like unless you really want to get it done as quickly as possible and you are like masochistic enough to force yourself to do that, don't
Yeah.
do it. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that's so simple. Like I could just not do that. I could be very regimented and get as uncomfortable as I can while hitting balls on the range. And then just like think shift totally to like tempo thoughts or things like that when you're on the course, and then just kind of like deal with what happens, and then eventually like you know
Hmm.
it'll start, you'll be at you know 1% of the new swing, and then the next time you go maybe you're at 3% of the new swing, and then eventually over time you'll be at like 100% of the new swing. That might
Sure.
take a year and a half, but at least you had fun while you were doing it.
I mean, that's motor learning. I mean, we talk about in my profession sometimes. We'll talk about, oh, like how do you change gait or how do you change your form while doing X, Y, Z. Um, and you have to be really intentional, very cognizant of what you're doing, and banking deliberate reps and a lot of that. But eventually, like, okay, you can work on your gait all you want, but then eventually you're gonna like walk from your car to the grocery store and not be thinking about it, right? So
Yeah.
like there's always this back and forth, and as you're traveling this one neural pathway more and more and more and more and more as you're trying to learn a new skill or shift a movement pattern, eventually that becomes the preferential pathway. But that takes time, and you don't have to always be grinding on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get that. That makes a ton of sense. That's basically what I was thinking about. What I'm hoping to do with my coach is just kind of like, hey man, let's do something to get started, something easy, and then I want to do like 3 months of like decent frequency, like sending him videos every couple of weeks kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm probably just going to cool it through the season and just
Yeah.
work on what I've got. I mean, that's plenty probably for me to have banked to work on through the rest of the season, and then pick it back up again probably in the fall and
Yeah.
start to, dive into the winter with like, okay, now I can spend more time on this stuff. So anyway, all that to say, I'm feeling pretty good about my processes and my putting. What I'm not super confident in is I just haven't gotten out to play as much as I wanted to. The weather has been starting to get nicer, and I've been having to work more for, extenuating circumstances, and there's been other family stuff, and it's been the holiday weekend this weekend at Easter, and so just lots of other life stuff coming up. And I sit here in the afternoons thinking I could go squeeze in 9 if I really wanted to, but I feel like who I want to be as a father and a husband leads me to make a different choice. So I haven't played that much,
Mm-hmm.
and I was hoping to have gotten a little bit more of like a hot start on playing for the year. I'm still doing okay, but yeah, I wanted to be playing more. So definitely this week I'm committed to trying to get out and get
Get some
something
reps in.
something because I got to
Yeah.
get on the course is all it is. I think a lot of it for me. I got to get on the course, and so
Yeah. It actually kind of leads into this next question kind of nicely. At Zenger419 asked, how will you define a successful mid-am season?
mm, let's see.
And I take that to mean like, what will you
Yeah,
consider successful as like, not necessarily as it relates to the mid-am tournament specifically,
sure.
but
The
just like
season.
the golf season as a mid-am, which we defined multiple times, is just like someone who has to make, like you said, other choices that aren't golf because of, your responsibilities as a father, as a, as a provider for your family,
Yes.
husband, friend, and all that stuff?
I'm just flipping back in my little podcast notebook here, but I don't see the page. But I was just gonna say my goals, honestly. Like we set
Yeah.
goals at the beginning of season one,
Mm-hmm.
and those were kind of 2024 goals. I mean, there was some of it was over the winter and grind season, but I think a lot of it extended into this whole year. So for me, just to reiterate, it was like I want to play 25 rounds of golf, which is double what I played last year. Um, I want to be on the course more. I want to I want to learn to play golf rather than get tied up in swing mechanics. So I want to have really clear processes and know how I operate on the golf course and why, and and what I do before every hole, before every shot. Um, I think I had some speed goals on there. Those were more wintertime ones, and they sort of fell through the wayside because I got sick and didn't feel up to making even just like 75% effort swings, let alone
Yeah.
100 and full out swings. And I think also now I've shifted to more like sequence and tempo and getting my efficiency up. And I think that'll translate to speed, and also it's something I would rather get that nailed before I start implementing or start trying to ratchet up the speed anyway. So
Yeah.
that's kind of fallen by the wayside. Again, those goals, maybe I'll pick those back up again for next winter. But I mean, I didn't get any slower, so that's fine. Trying to remember some other goals off the top of my head. Oh, I had an under par round would be a great goal. Qualify for the mid-am would also be a great goal. Those ones, uh, I've said this before. I tend to like goals that are within my control. It's just whether or
Mm-hmm.
not I show up and do the work.
Yeah.
But those ones aren't necessarily that, but they're kind of nice. They're nice. Obvious, like simple, straightforward goals to have. Like, hey, yeah, I'd love to qualify. That's a goal. It's not necessarily all up to me, but that's okay. And then the fundraising one, which was our other goal, and just an update on that because I checked before we signed on tonight. We have one pledge, and it's me. So
I'm gonna do mine. I'm gonna do mine tonight. Thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Hey, and
Yeah.
I almost contributed 2 birdies today. I had 2 4-foot birdie putts that I missed.
Oh no.
Sick. They were both above the hole sliders, and I told you I was feeling a little
yeah.
Well, you know what? Hey, the bright side is I had 2 4-foot birdie putts.
Hey,
dude,
you don't
that's solid.
You don't make them all. That's all there is to it.
And it just everything felt weird. Everything felt weird because I haven't touched the club, and it just felt weird. But
Yeah.
I had 2 4-foot birdie putts, so
Hey, great.
good on me.
I don't remember Oh, I know. I do remember the last time I had a 4-foot birdie putt. I missed it. So
There we go.
I was rattled. I was rattled. I was rattled though. I was rattled. I almost hit a hole in one. It hit the flag.
Yes,
it was at
that's
Bandon.
right.
It was
Yes, it hit the flag stick.
So wrapped up in the flag. Yeah.
I would miss that putt too.
And it was their greens. Admittedly, themselves, they just admitted this on a Sports Illustrated article.
Sports Illustrated, yeah.
Their greens are not in great shape right now, and it was this weird downhill curler. And yeah, anyway, I don't need to make excuses, Tyler. I missed it, and that's fine. I don't even remember what I was saying.
That's big of you, dude. Really brave.
Oh shoot, what was I saying? Oh yeah, goals. So anyway, I think that's how I would define a successful season, as if I am able to check off a number of those goals. So and still not abandon my wife and children, so, or work, or any of those things. Yeah, what about you?
I think I liked your point of like emphasizing the goals in which you have 100% control of, which is really just showing up. And so I think, I have the handicap goal and the shoot under par goal and qualify for the mid-am goal, obviously. But I think like for me, what will define a successful season is is my goal to play. I think it was like 15 competitive rounds or something like that. I can't remember the number, but it was a certain number of competitive rounds. I want to do that. I really want to make a point to like enter as much as that I can and, play in events where every shot counts and you got to hit cups and, and you got to play by the rules and there's no, there's no breakfast balls and all that good stuff. And be kind of like have that little bit of that anxiety kind of all throughout the round and just try to like get a little more battle hardened around that environment. Cause like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to play more competitively. Like that really is appealing to me. And so I want to do that. Obviously we have the first event coming up and then, we've got, there are going to be plenty of other opportunities as the season progresses, but that's the one where like, hey, if I hit that number, no matter what happens, if I don't qualify, if I don't shoot under par, if I don't get my handicap down, I will still consider it a like successful season because I showed up and I tried. I put myself in like those positions to get uncomfortable and potentially, like fail. But I still showed up. I still went and I played, and I think for me that'll be a success. And then I think like it's not necessarily around golf itself, but like this podcast, I think like posting every week. It's been the last few weeks have been difficult, like for us to like figure it out and we've persevered and we've gotten it done. So like, as it relates to like mid-am, this podcast, I want to post every single week this year. And if we can make that happen, I'll be really proud of that.
Yeah, that would be a for sure achievement. I feel like.
Right. Next cue. Yeah. At Jason Barney 12, good guy, great player. Played with him at Sweetens a couple years back. When you're off, what are your swing thoughts? And what brings you back to feeling confident?
You go. I need to think.
Okay. So I know for me, if I'm off, it's because I'm quick, and it's very much like a sequencing thing. If I'm off, I'm quick. The other one is I'm not getting to my left side quickly enough, or in some cases at all. So my tendencies are quick, and then like just really hanging back, like shifting too much into my back foot and not really getting back, to my lead side. The other one is I know when I'm tired, it's because, or I know that when I get tired, I tend to stall. My body stalls more and the ball goes left. So like understanding all those tendencies, what gets me back to feeling confident? I just go into like a full stack and tilt feel like I never leave that left side. And then I try to feel like I'm pausing, like who is it? Hideki Siwoo. I think Siwoo Kim had a pretty prolific pause too. But I feel like I'm pausing for like 2 seconds at the top of my swing and then going, but I'm always on that left side. And like, and then I just like don't hit. I feel like everything's like a 3/4 kind of like knockdown shot. And that just helps me find the bottom, like kind of reestablish the bottom of the arc. And then like just gets me confident in knowing I can hit the center of the club face. And once I do that, I can usually kind of get it back on the train.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So while you were talking, I was for sure listening. No, I was, but I was also jotting down, through things that came to my head. So, when I'm off with the driver, there is no hope. There is no salvation. You might as well start digging, get about 6 feet down, and, lay it to rest. You'll find me up the left side searching for balls. And
yeah, you probably didn't bring enough.
No. Don't talk to me though. If you see me over there, I'm not peeing. I'm questioning my choices in life. And yeah. That's been improving though. So
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. But yes, no, there's no coming back when I'm off with the driver. I've been off with the driver for about 30 years. So, with irons, however,
So you're close. I mean,
I'm
you're
close.
due,
We're getting
man.
there. We're getting there. With irons, I grew up playing Glendoveer.
Oof.
So if you are familiar with the Portland area, I'm sure you've played Glendoveer, specifically the East Course. It is as close to as you can get, I feel like, to playing golf inside of a canyon, except for those canyons are the canyon is made out of trees. So the fairways are literally lined with
hallways.
Yeah, it's just hallways. So I got really good at punch shots. And like keeping it low and bending it either direction extreme amounts. And I know that when I'm really struggling with iron, specifically contact, I can anytime recall the sensation of just like punching the heck out of it, keeping it low, hitting a little burner, a little stinger, and it cleans stuff up really well. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's something I would consider playable. Just like this is my all the time feel. Like I know I'm always gonna hit it flush doing this, because the ball, it's not a high enough flight to be functional. Even if I'm not trying to like really keep it down, even if I'm just trying to like capture the feel of that punch and kind of like shorten follow through, the feel of the energy, going really downward and into the ball and then stopping. It cleans up contact really nicely, but it's not, I wouldn't say
you're not holding greens.
It's not really useful beyond that, but it gets me kind of back into the feeling of like, oh yes, here we go.
Factory reset. Yeah.
Yes, we need a little bit of this. Short game with chipping. I chip the best when I feel like I do nothing but like just let the club head fall. Like I add nothing to it on the way down. And if I want to chip it and have it fly further, I just take it back a little higher and let it fall from higher. Anytime I try
Parker McLaughlin, like short game chef.
I just have a much better sense of like how the ball will come off of the face or like out of different lies if I start from a place where I'm like, I add nothing to this. Mm-hmm. And then I know like, okay, well, I take it back a little higher. No, I feel like it still needs a little more. Okay, so I can give it just a little bit. Yeah. And I always have much more predictable contact, which is and turf and ball interaction, which is kind of like everything around the greens and short game stuff. It's like if you can manage that, then you're gonna do all right. And then putting is just like, I just have a tendency to grip it too much when I get off, or grip it too tightly when I get off. So soft hands is the thing that gets me back usually with that. Anyway.
All right. Next question from Jay Parada 32. What's one thing that keeps you coming back to golf?
I hate myself.
No, that's the answer. Yeah.
That is, no, that's not it. I love the challenge of just like, I bet I could do that better. So in any
that's
facet,
exactly what I was going to say.
In any facet in life, here's some insight into how uncool I was for most of my life, because I'm definitely cool now. I mean, we have a podcast. So only cool people have podcasts.
It was this or World War II.
There was I got really into Risk, the board game. And I think about the Roman Empire every day. No, for a time I got pretty into Rubik's Cube.
Oh, I've had that phase. Yeah,
you've had that
for
phase.
Sure. I've had that phase
for sure. So but that scratches that itch too, where it's like, okay, I could do that faster. And even if it's just like 1 second. Oh yeah, I could do that faster. Or those stupid like helicopter game. Do you know that? Remember that game where it's like you just click the mouse button and it like controls how much the
Oh, like
helicopter
Angry Birds,
goes
but
up, or
or Flappy Bird, but yeah, the helicopter.
sure, yeah. So any of those, and it's like I bet I can make it a little bit further. I bet I can make it. That's how golf is for me, because it's like this is an unbeatable game. Like
Right.
you'll never conquer it. Even if you shot an 18, you'd be like, but I got lucky once, so I bet I could do it all intentionally. You know, like
Yeah.
there's
Or like I could do that from, another tee box back or something.
yeah, exactly. So, but I am driven by the idea of like, ooh, I'm sure I could do that better. I know I could do that better. And that, like, no matter how frustrated I get, matter of fact, usually when I play bad, I want to get right back onto the course.
Right.
So,
right.
Because
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I know I could do better right now. Right now.
Let's do it. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. It's just like, hey, like knowing that I could go back to tomorrow and try it again and be like, nah, I think I can improve on this. And like, it's just, there's nothing really like it that is so, that every day is, even if you play the same course over and over and over again, it's a different experience, like a remarkably different experience for something that's supposed to be the same. Which you can't really say about like a basketball court or a baseball diamond or a soccer field. Like the environment itself, there's nothing different. But like a course that even if you play the same tees, same course every single day, like no two shots are the same. And I just like that, and basically being able to, you have this infinite, like gameplay. I don't play video games, so I have a hard time like using that analogy, but it's like you have like just like infinite levels.
Yeah.
You'll never reach the end, like you said, you'll never reach the end of the game because it's going to be different tomorrow. So like you have an opportunity, like even if you feel like maybe you're like, oh, like 66 is like me conquering golf. Well, okay, tomorrow try to go do it again, but it's different. It's going to be completely different. It's like you're trying it for the first time. It's hard to explain, but that's the allure, and that's kind of what keeps me coming back.
Yeah, I mean, like case in point, I've shot even par a couple times, but I remember the first time I did it, it was actually in match play, and like it was even par, like legitimately, but there were a couple times where we went good, and I'm like, I know I would make that putt. Yeah, I know it. It's like a 3-footer, right?
Right.
But I didn't.
But you didn't.
And I shot even par that day, and there was always like this, that doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah. So luckily I've actually legitimately done it, but it was like, I can do better than that. So
yeah.
Yep.
That makes I think we're on the same page there.
That's why we're best friends.
We're best friends. Why we have a podcast and we don't play Stratego.
That's right.
Okay, couple more questions here. At Coleman Quinn asks, where can I find a solid practice schedule for me to follow to improve short game and putting? And I thought this was an interesting question because
that's all you.
There's a couple routes you can go. There are some great online courses. I've tried the Short Game Chef. Parker's stuff is really, really good. I highly recommend it. I think it's great. Dan Greaves has his book that's fantastic. And then Golf Better Tucson, some of the stuff that he puts out, and he has his own content that you can purchase is also, I've played with that, or I've messed around with that as well. It's all really solid. That's all to say, like, explore, find philosophies that vibe with you, and then drills from coaches who teach those philosophies, and just build out like a Rolodex of different drills and stuff that you can do. And then just like meal prep those drills into a, whatever, 45-minute practice routine, hour, 15-minute practice routine, 3-hour practice routine, like whatever it is you want to do. But like, it's not so much the actual content of the practice routine. It's more of like going in with a plan. Um, I see too many people that are just like, oh, I'm just going to go to the range. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with the range? I'm going to hit balls. Okay. Like, but what are you going to do with the range? Like, what are you doing? Well, I'm hitting
Yeah.
balls. Okay. So you have no plan.
Yeah.
You're
So
just
you're
going to
hitting
go,
driver.
yeah, you're going to go waste whatever, $18 on a bucket of balls and, an hour of your life and probably burn through the palm of a glove, and you've accomplished nothing. And in some cases, you may have actually done a detriment to your game by like just rapid firing, like,
Yeah.
shitty reps.
Yeah.
So like what I do that I think was one of the reasons that I like cut my handicap in half in like a tough, an 8 to a 4 is like very different from a 20 to a 10.
Mm-hmm.
So like all of my practice is so regimented. It down to like 15 minutes and sometimes like 7.5 minute blocks, right? So like I know what I'm doing basically every minute of every practice session. I set a timer on my phone. And I stick to that plan, but I've written out very specifically what I want to accomplish. And I pre-plan. So I know exactly how that whole thing's going to go and I stick to it. And like, I think that's for personally as someone who's, I think, pretty good at practicing. Um, I would say it's more about just like find stuff that resonates with you. And also like, this also goes back into stats and keeping decent enough stats to where you can actually, pull information out that is useful to you. So it's just like, hey, pay attention when you're around the greens and what shots you struggle with. Because we're talking short game and putting specifically. When you go out and play, pay attention to the shots that you have around the green. Make mental note of like what you struggled with, what you did well at, and maybe try to think about why. And then like work that like drills around those things that you feel you need to work on into a practice routine and really time block your practice session out and stick to it, and be consistent about it, and you'll improve. Like there's no world in which if you do that you won't improve. So like I think people get maybe a little bit too caught up in like the perfect drill or what drills you should be doing. Like I don't care if it's just like I'm gonna hit 20. I mean, it could be just like I'm gonna hit 20 chips that are 15 yards. And I'm gonna hit 20 chips that are 25 yards. Okay, that's great. That's so much better than just like dropping balls and just kind of like aimlessly putzing around on the green. Like,
Sure.
Although I will say, aimlessly practicing on the green and around the like on the practice green, like putting and chipping is actually, I'm going to say, never going to really be detrimental. It's more of a problem on the range.
Yeah.
You can't really screw yourself up around the putting green and the chipping area. But I just think like as a matter of efficiency, if you time block those things, and try different drills, like this is a great opportunity for you to just kind of explore and, figure out stuff that is challenging, but helps you, like reach your goals of, feeling more confident and more successful around the greens. So,
Cool.
it's kind of a long-winded way
Yeah.
of saying like, just stick to a plan, like develop a plan and stick to it and don't just aimlessly practice.
Yeah. What was the questioner's name?
Coleman Quinn.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Coleman, come here. Listen up.
Get real close.
Listen, I'm like you. I get it. We're not nerds like Tyler. Okay. We're not going to do that. What we are going to. So what I'm going to tell you right now is
Cool.
nod your head,
Sick.
maybe jot down a couple things. No, I'm kidding. That was really good information. I take a much less, what am I going to say? less regimented approach, but at this, but with the same principles in mind. So I think by and large, and guys like Dan Grieve or some of these other short game people that we really appreciate their perspective on the game will harp on this as well. I think mostly putting and chipping have very little to do with technique and a lot to do with golf IQ. And that means, how well do you understand the factors that influence how a putt rolls, whether that's slope, whether that's grain, whether that's wind, whether that's moisture on the turf. These are all things that are mostly just like education. You can just learn about this and then see it enough times to make an educated guess on how that's going to influence the break of a putt, or how, where the ball's sitting in the rough, whether it's like a centimeter above the turf or an inch above the turf, how that's going to affect how you need to change what you're doing. Whether the grass is into the, like if you're into the grain, chipping into the grain uphill versus, downhill, or downhill and with the grain. These things just change what you're even trying to do and what you can do, what's possible with the golf ball around the greens, because it does not take physical prowess or a whole lot of athletic ability to accomplish a putt or chip.
Yeah.
Full stop. Most of it around the greens is education. So what I would say is educate yourself, whether that's reading, whether that's going out and intentionally trying to put yourself in different positions in different situations and see how the ball reacts coming out of that, or see what you need to do to get a cleaner strike or better contact. So I think golf IQ is the biggest thing with short game, personally. And then beyond that, I like with putting, I like kind of a Marcus Potter sort of proselytization. Oh wait, that's not the word. Sure. Anyway,
yeah, I'm the nerd.
His
I'm
approach.
the nerd.
Yeah, whatever. I just use words that mean things, Tyler. Pick one or two drills that are maybe either setup or technique based and just do them. Yeah. You don't need to do a ton of different drills to try and groove your stroke and have 8 different training aids. Pick one and do it over and over and over and over and over again. And then gamification of practice. So the simplest thing is to like play 9 holes. We're out. Yeah. You're playing golf, so make your practice of golf like golf. Make it putt, make it chip and putt, whatever. Say I'm going to play 9 holes. I'm going to go from this hole to that hole, that hole, that hole, that whatever, and everyone's a par 2. Sure. So you got to 2-putt everything. Cool. Do that.
Yeah.
It's
around that. Like, so my putting, which is improved, sans today. Overall, it's improved. Is like my putting practice routine is gate drill. That's my technique thing. I do that. And then I do a speed game. Really, actually, it's not even a drill. It's more of it's a game, to try to dial in my speed control, because that's the most important part of, if you're even moderately okay at reading a green, if you have perfect speed, you're going to have, the chances of 3-putting are going to be very minimal. So if you can dial in speed, you're going to be decent. And then I do a simulated putting round through the Decade app. And that's like very similar to your 9-hole, playing 9 holes. It's, it's the same thing. It helps you kind of get a little bit more focus on the speed of the putts, not just like whether or not it, the score, like whether or not it went in.
It's great because it gives you like actual data point feedback, and specifics and stuff like that. So, but if you want to be better at golf, I believe that the best way is to make all of your practice as much like golf as you can. So that way you're actually practicing the game as well as maybe some of your skills. So gamification. Grab a ball, one ball, and toss it off to the side of the green somewhere. Pick a hole, get up and down. It's a par 2. Do that 18 times. or or more. If you want to play 36, grab a hot dog at the turn, whatever.
Tonic water.
Tonic water, Milky Way, whatever you need to do. So I think that's really it with around the greens and short game and putting stuff. There's not a perfect thing, like Tyler said, and I will actually nod my head and agree that yeah, I do like everything that Tyler said. I'm not that guy, pal.
I'm not that guy. You're not that guy, pal. Cool. Thanks for agreeing with me.
Yeah.
All right, last question. This was an interesting one, and I had to ask a clarifying question just so I understood exactly what they were asking. But RJ Kedawar asked, "What is your strategy for never played to a score of 105-ish with 3 weeks prep time?" And the backstory is that he has a friend who got invited to play golf by his boss, and the guy's like, "I've never played golf before, and I don't want to like be a bummer." And the boss is like, "No, no, no, come out and play, come out and play." So his friend is like, we got 3 weeks to get you so you can shoot 105. And so he's asking me like, how do we do that? And I said, you don't. That's impossible. That is legitimately impossible. There's just no way. And so the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I think there is a question about like, hey, how do you get new people into playing golf and like enjoying it? And
Sure.
I will say, ideally, you're not starting out like in a situation where you're playing with like a superior on a golf, like going right out on the golf course and you're like playing with your boss. That's a tough and like,
don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, I
be
really would
kind
have
to
pushed back
yourself.
even more and been like, really, man, this is not something I
No.
want to do. But I also understand that maybe he didn't feel like he had the opportunity, like the chance to say no. But
Yeah,
let's
fair.
just assume that like you're being held hostage and you have to do this. Score is out the window. You're not playing for score. You're not good enough to play for score.
Yeah.
You are playing for time. So, if you're new to golf, you're not listening to the podcast. So if you have someone who's trying to get into golf,
probably not.
You can take them out on the course. I recommend not doing that just for like the sake of other players. Like try to get some range time, try to get them chipping and putting around the green, get them to the point where they can hit like at least 100 yards relatively consistently. And then you can kind of take them on the course. But even then, the first time they're on the course, score is irrelevant. Score does not exist. Like a total score doesn't exist. You can be invested in a score like hole to hole because it'd be really cool if like they make their first par. Obviously, you want to celebrate that. But as like an idea of like trying to put an 18-hole score goal onto someone who's like doesn't play golf or hasn't played golf, like that's just stressful for no reason because A, it's unattainable, and B, like they can't even conceptualize that. Like they can't conceptualize what 105 means in 18 holes. So it's like completely lost on that person anyway. So just don't set that benchmark. You're just going out and you have to finish the round. Either you have to keep up with the group ahead of you no matter what, or you need to finish that round in 4 hours. And that means that like, hey, after you've exceeded double par pickup, pick up the ball, put it on the green, hit a couple putts just so that you have an opportunity to hit the putts. And then just like you as the Sherpa, as the person that is guiding them, the spirit guide on the course, like just reiterate that like it's okay that we don't have to play exactly by the rules. Like there's no shame in it. You're not holding anyone up unless you start holding people up. And then that becomes a problem. So like give them the opportunity to hit some shots, but at the same time be like, hey dude, don't even worry about it. Just pick it up. If they hit it in the bunker and like, that they're just not gonna be able to get out, just tell them, hey dude, don't like, we'll do bunkers at some other time. Just pop it out on the side of the green and just try to chip up. Like try to make it as easy and as fun as possible. Putting score into the equation is just a bad idea in general. Like don't play for score. Don't even think about score. If they happen to par a hole or bogey a hole or whatever, celebrate that. But like, don't try to put them through some 3-week boot camp, that thinking that they are going to be able to shoot 105 right out of the gate with their boss, in attendance.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
That's tough. I wholeheartedly agree. My initial thoughts were, dude, play a scramble or something with this person, so that way they get to hit at shots, but then they can just pick up their ball and come and toss it by yours and try and hit from there. I wrote down double par. That's how I learned. That's what my dad did with me, taking me out on the course. He's like, hey, this is a par 4. You get 8 tries. Once you hit that many, pick it up, toss it on the green, putt it out a couple times, and let's get out of here. Make it fun if you're on the course stewarding this person around. Like, it doesn't need to be, it shouldn't be stressful. It should be an enjoyable thing. You're out there to have a good time.
Preferred lies, like no chipping out. Like,
tee it up. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what? Like, it doesn't matter. You're not out there playing for money. It literally does not matter. I'd say the bigger thing is, like, teach them course etiquette. Teach them, like, hey, the next tee box is over there, so put your bag on that side of the green, right? There's so many people I see on any given day that still don't do that crap.
I do that all the time. I put my bag on the wrong side of the green all the time. I suck at that. It's like one of my biggest flaws as a human being.
I still love you. But, like, it's, there's stuff like that. Like, okay, you're going to teach them, like, hey, rake this bunker, right? If you're in there, just rake it. Or, if somebody else is off looking for a ball or something and you're at yours and you're ready, hit it. It's okay. Again, I totally agree. Now, I did have some initial thoughts, like, if you're gonna do this anyway, against our warnings and our recommendations, because we are such experts, and you should only do what we say. But if you're gonna do it anyway, because you probably are, my first thought was like, well, drink a lot. But then I thought, oh no, you're playing with your boss, so you probably don't want to get drunk.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Don't get sloppy. But
get him drunk, though.
Because then no one cares how anybody's playing golf.
Right.
But if I had to start somebody out and we had to go on the course right away, I would give them a golf club. I would, first of all, teach them the different parts of a golf club, like, hey, hit it with the face here. I would probably make them take a split grip and hit, like, slap shots.
Yeah. Like,
literally just, like, hands apart, top of the grip, bottom of the grip, and do, like, a little half swing sweeper. Because that's kind of a familiar motion for most people. Most people have held a broom. Most people have kind of swept stuff before. We kind of get it. There's some basics of, sequencing, ground force reaction, yada, 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 that just kind of happen naturally when you do that stuff. And they're not going to most likely, like, aggressively stub it into the ground. If they tee it up every time, they'll just hit driver every time, sweep it off there. Like, you're not going to shoot 105. I will tell you that right now. But at least you might plink it around 75 yards at a time and not feel like you're in the way and a burden to everyone else. So I would say, if you're going to do it, you shouldn't. But if you're going to, I'd do that.
But really don't do it.
But don't do that.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it to yourself.
No, it's mean. You don't deserve that.
Be kind to yourself. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to say no, people. It's all right.
Well, that was the last question. So, as it goes, that's the end of the episode.
Well, there you go.
It's poetic. No, hey, thanks everyone for submitting questions. Very cool. It's A, fun to know people are listening to us, and B, fun to be able to, give our thoughts and opinions on things that you're actually asking. So every other episode is just us presuming what you'd want to listen to. So this kind of feedback's a lot of fun.
I hope we helped. I hope we, know.
And if we didn't, comment on something and tell us we suck.
Yeah. Or try it. And if it doesn't work, cool. Throw it away. We're not professionals.
No. Oh yeah. I should say, don't listen to us.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing listening to us? That was your first mistake, you morons.
Yeah. But I've got an opinion if you want to know it.
Hell yeah. We all do.
But yeah.
But thanks again for hanging out with us tonight, this evening, this morning, whenever you're listening to this episode.
Whenever you listen to it.
You can find us on Instagram at Midam Podcast. You can find me personally at Fade and Farrow. You can find Nathan at nathan.furamasu and at Thistle Leather Goods. I will link all those in the show notes. Again, special thank you to the sponsor of our podcast, Adele. Didn't press the button, but just knows.
Hello.
And then please be sure to check out the Birdie-a-thon, and please consider donating. Yeah. I'm gonna go and do my here in a second. We want to raise $1,000. We're gonna do that through Stellar Play, by not missing 4-foot birdie putts, and we're gonna also be able to do that with your generosity. So please check that out. The link will be in the show notes. It's also in the link in our bio on Instagram. Other than that, I think that's it. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.